Haha! Do you know what this is? A plant. I know it's a plant, but do you know what type of plant? A green one? Oh, come on, you're hopeless. Do you mean you don't know its name? You don't know its uses? You don't know its stories? I mean, what do you guys in your time period use instead of this? Look, mate, I don't know what it is, but to be honest, people in my century, we don't really need to know that stuff anymore. Whatever that plant can do, we've probably got a pill or an app that can do it for us. In fact, I can tell you where that plant is. I can tell you everything that has ever been known about that plant. A second, I'm just going to download an app. Hold up a second. Wait till you see this. This is going to blow your 17th century mind, my friend. Ran out of battery. You made me not send my Snapchat. Aye, not so smart without your fancy magic pocket rectangle now, eh? Come on, let's take a walk. I'll teach you some stuff. You folks can come too if you want. Hi folks, Tom from Fandabidozi, thanks for tuning in. So I've done many past videos discussing the survival uses of plants, and what I find so interesting about learning about plants is how I feel they can open up what I would call the many layers of knowledge about the land that they're in. So you could say a first layer of knowledge is to be able to identify the plant and attribute a name to it. A second layer of knowledge might be to understand what sort of habitat that plant likes to grow in and why. And the more you understand this, the more you can actually piece together the story of the land, the history of it, maybe how it's changed. Another layer of knowledge might be to recognize the characteristics and uses of the plants, whether they're edible, whether they're medicinal, or even poisonous, or if they can be used for everyday tasks. And finally, if you can explore the plants in your area through the lens of the indigenous language, in this case I'm in Scotland, so Scottish Gaelic, then it opens up a whole other box of knowledge. Often the native names tell us exactly what our ancestors used it for, and also give clues about the myths and beliefs our ancestors attributed to them. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some perhaps lesser known Scottish plants, but plants that I believe that the average 17th century Highlander would have known really well just through everyday life tasks. Now, if you want to learn more, you can check out some of my past videos. You can subscribe to my website or follow me on social media to be notified by all the events and courses that I run. If you want monthly extra content, you can become a Patreon, and any support there I'm really grateful for. I'm also really grateful to Wandrium for sponsoring yet another one of my videos. Honestly folks, if it wasn't for Wandrium, I wouldn't have been able to take my channel to the next level. So after you've watched this video, if you guys wouldn't mind just spending 10 seconds clicking on that link below and reading what Wandrium offer, even that small little thing helps me fund and make more videos like this. But without further ado, let's learn about some plants. If you find yourself feeling thirsty while running to or from a fight, maybe stop and pick yourself some soldier's bite. This is the translation of the Gaelic name for this plant, fandabidozi. The English name, wood sorrel. It's called wood sorrel because it's very commonly found in the woods. The leaves, it kind of looks like a clover, although the individual leaves are love heart shaped. They have a little white flower and they're edible. When you taste them, they kind of taste like sour apple. Now, why might this wee plant be called the soldier's bite? Well, ultimately, we don't really know, but at least my interpretation is that it grows really commonly in the woods. It's really easy to recognize and pick up going quickly, and if you chew in it, you'll notice that that sour taste will make you salivate. And to me, it's almost like the old survival trick of sucking on a pebble to make you salivate, to kind of trick your body into thinking that you're quenching your thirst. So if you're really in a pinch and don't have much time to rest, maybe this little forest plant was Highland warriors' solution to quench their thirst while on the move. Raniach. 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 It's a fun word to say, and it's the Gaelic name for this well-known fern, known in English as bracken. Now you see the name Raniach in many place names, such as the famous Rannoch Moor next to Glencoe. Now these days, bracken is often labelled as a pest by farmers and landowners, as it has an amazing ability to spread underground via rhizomes and turn a lush green pasture into a thick fern jungle in no time. Now unfortunately this means that people tend to resort to spraying this with chemical herbicides to try and get rid of it. Now in the past, it doesn't seem like bracken was much of a problem to farmers. It didn't seem to be as prevalent, it didn't seem to be able to take over as much as it does nowadays. Now this could be for a few reasons, could be due to changes in agricultural practices, but I often think maybe it's just because people use this all the time and in large amounts, so it never got a chance to really spread. It was used for a short-term thatching. People also used it for bedding for their livestock instead of something like hay or straw, which might be hard to grow or expensive or could be used for something else. People just used bracken that grew readily all around them. People also used it for bedding for themselves, and I've used it before on past overnight trips. You can basically make a box frame, fill it full of things like heather and then bracken, and then cover it with some blankets or animal skins, and there you go, you've got yourself a comfy mattress. Now the young fiddleheads were sometimes eaten as a starvation food, but you can't eat that many of them as they contain a small amount of toxin. Now what can bracken teach us about the land it's growing in? Well, bracken doesn't like to get its feet wet. In fact, it only grows in areas that are consistently dry, and usually grows in soil that isn't too bad. So if you're thinking about setting up a more long-term homestead or field, then a bracken patch is a good place to start. So rather than labelling our lovely Raniach as a pest that needs to be sprayed with chemicals, why don't we just relabel it as a readily available, useful resource? Now there's one thing we're definitely not short of in Scotland, and that is bogs. They're everywhere. Whoa. Cold. But luckily, you can sometimes find some nice things in them, namely this plant. In English, it's called Bog Myrtle. In Gaelic, roch. In Latin, Myrica galli. And it's a miracle it smells so nice. If you pick some of the leaves, crush it up in your hands, give it a sniff, it smells somewhere between sage and lavender. And it's this perfume that gives it insect repelling properties. In the past, when people were starting to get eaten alive by midges, simply pick some of this plant, crush it up in your hands, and rub it on any exposed skin. And it does actually work. Now it's not as effective as some modern bug sprays, but it has been shown by modern science to have some insect repellent properties. Now this natural growing insect repellent was also used in Highland households. People would pick sprigs of it and put it in their linen drawers to help protect them from moths. People would also spread it on the floor of their house as a sort of air freshener, and it was believed to keep away evil spirits. A wax can even be extracted from the catkins of the plant that can be used to make candles, but this is a really labour-intensive process. You can use it to flavour vodkas or other spirits, but what I've mainly used it for on past trips is as a natural soap or deodorant, which can be handy after many days of camping in the woods. So if you ever feel that the midges are kicking up a notch, then why don't you pick yourself some roch? If you find it's getting dark, then maybe it's time to illuminate with loacher. A loacher, that's the Gaelic name for this common rush, known in English as soft rush. It's a common plant you find generally in wet areas and around the edges of bogs. It's believed that there's a connection between the Latin word for light, lumis, and the Gaelic name for this, loacher, which would make sense as the main use of this plant in the Highlands was as a wick for rush lamps, for lanterns, a way to light someone's house. Now in the past, candles were actually quite expensive, and the average poor peasant might not be able to afford them. So the main way people lit their houses was with rush lamps. Now what was generally the job of the Highland children was to go out and pick the soft rush. Now what they would then do is peel off the outer green skin to expose the inner white pith. Now if you look at this pith under a microscope, you'll see it's made up of hundreds of little tubes which act like capillaries that allow the plant to bring up water. Now these capillaries also mean that we can dry this pith and use it like a wick. These capillaries will soak up whatever fuel you want to use, whether it's vegetable fat, fish oil or animal fat. And this is how people would have lit their houses. There's a few different rush lamp designs, and I've even come up with a way of using modern household items to make your own little rush lamp, which I can do a video on in the future. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. Now soft rush also has a secret weapon. By peeling off a wee bit of outer skin, placing it through your thumb and forefinger, resting the rest of the rush on your shoulder, you can turn this common plant into a bazooka. Now the outer skin for the rush can be used as a makeshift cordage, and lorca was also used for other things such as for bedding and for thatching people's roofs. Now in the modern day, soft rush is another one of these plants that's generally considered a pest, but to our ancestors it was a plentiful and very useful resource. Now there is one more plant I want to show you folks. It's one of my favourites, and its direct and indirect uses cover all walks of life, from wiping your bum to tanning animal skins. But before I show you it, if your magic pocket rectangle hasn't run out of battery, then it is good for one thing, and that is learning about anything you want. And a good place to start doing that is at Wandrium.
Wandrium is the rebrand of the Great Courses Plus, and it's basically the Netflix of learning, but now with even more courses to choose from. On one subscription you get access to thousands of courses on pretty much any subject you can think of, from science, music, history, philosophy, relationship advice, building a business, you name it, they've got it. There's no homework or tests, you just learn whatever you want, whenever you want. Subjects are given by experts in their field from Ivy League universities or organisations like National Geographic, and content is updated monthly. Favourite thing about it is you can download the audio of the lectures onto your phone, so you can listen to it whenever you want. I also like the university style of lectures, as it gives you a great academic background, a non-biased viewpoint and context for every subject. Since we're talking about plants, did you know that the oldest tree in the world is over 5,000 years old? And the oldest clonal plant is nearly 12,000 years old. These are just a couple of mind-blowing facts I learned on the course called The Botanist's Eye. Some past courses I've enjoyed include The Celtic World, Surviving Any Disaster, and Cooking Across the Ages, as well as Real Zen for Real Life. You can try it out for free by going to wandrium.com/fandabidozi or click the link in the description below. It helps support my videos, plus you can learn about anything really.
If you find yourself walking across an area of bog and hear then you're probably stepping on Mointachlia, which is the Gaelic name for this common species of moss, known in English as Sphagnum Moss. And this truly is a really amazing plant. It has so many uses, and this one plant alone is responsible for shaping much of the Scottish landscape we see today. Sphagnum moss has two main characteristics that make it so useful. One, it's incredibly absorbent. It holds about 16 times its own weight in water. And two, it's acidic. It creates an acidic environment, meaning it's antibacterial. So for thousands of years, people have used this for daily items that they want to be absorbent and clean, i.e. toilet paper, sanitary towels, nappies, and wound dressings. In fact, sphagnum moss was used right up to the Second World War for wound dressings, and part of the war effort in Scotland, women and children would go out into the bogs and collect sphagnum moss, sent to a factory. It was made up into dressings that were sent as part of the war effort. It has many other uses. You can make a makeshift water filter out of them. You can use it as a sort of bubble wrap. If you can dry it out, then it's very squishy, so you can use it to protect delicate things. You can use it to stuff clothing, stuff pillows and furniture. Now this acidic characteristic of sphagnum moss means it has many other indirect uses. Now from an ecological perspective, sphagnum moss is considered an ecosystem engineer, which means it creates the environment it wants to live in. So it wants to live in a wet, acidic place. So the more it grows and the more it spreads, the more it turns the land around it into acidic wetlands. Now this acidity stops plant matter and other things from breaking down. So over thousands of years you get all that plant matter building up, and eventually it turns into what we now call peatlands or peat bogs. And basically all this captured vegetation is a carbon source, and this is why people have used peat as a fuel to heat their homes for centuries. This high acid environment also means that a peat bog can be used as a sort of natural pickle jar, and people used to tan animal skins within the bog as well as store food, and sometimes bog butter has been pulled up that's thousands of years old. So it's an incredibly effective food storage method. Now I've got a past video discussing bog skin tanning, so go check that out if you haven't seen it already. So there we go. There's 5 plants that I reckon your average 17th century Highlander would have known and used at a daily basis. Now if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to learn more, consider coming along to one of my courses, support me on Patreon for extra content, or check out some of my past videos. Huge thanks to all my patrons for supporting, and also huge thanks to Wandrium. Please don't forget to click that link below and just check it out for 10 seconds. That really is a big help. Thanks so much for watching, folks, and I'll be back with another video next month. Cheers. Have a good one. Enjoy your plants.